Hi, I'm Brandon Walton, and welcome to Hotspot. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the subject of whether student athletes should be paid. I'd like to introduce my guests at this time. On my left-hand side starting.
I'm John Armstrong.
I'm Ego Hadjimarovich.
And on my right side.
I'm Jordan Andrade.
I'm Ryan Orlando.
All right, gentlemen, let's get it started. First question, with athletes putting in as much time as someone working a full-time job, shouldn't they be accommodated for that? John?
I want to start by saying I don't think there's many 40-hour practice weeks for very many athletes. I mean, maybe there's a few, but I don't think there's many. And again, they're being compensated with an education, and we pay our dues every week. Every semester rather, we pay our tuition between $3,000 and $10,000 to go to this fine institution, Boise State, and they pay it by running extra laps. It's a good deal.
Now, Iggy, you're a student athlete as well. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I certainly do agree. You get a free education, and on top of that, you get your rent paid for and your books. And if you budget your money correctly, which also teaches you how to be responsible, you can easily live like monthly to monthly on your rent pay and the minor stipend check you get.
There you go.
Now, Jordan, you're also a student athlete, but you have a different opinion on that matter.
Well, I see it as there's a lot of ways to get scholarships nowadays. You don't even need to really be qualified nowadays. You can go online and type out some things just about yourself, and wham, you get a scholarship. $500 scholarship there, you add it up eventually. I mean, it's not going to pay off as much as a student scholarship, but not every student athlete gets a scholarship full ride. There's a lot of walk-ons, there's people on partial scholarships. So in that case, like, I don't get my food paid for. I'm a great athlete, and I'm not a full ride athlete yet. So there's a lot of things that you have to do to work to get all that, just like any other student if you worked to get a promotion.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, and kind of going along the lines of what he said, we kind of need to look to the numbers before we can look to anything else. And what we see is that right now there's actually only 6 sports in college level that can actually even receive full ride scholarships. And the amount of people that actually receive those full ride scholarships is dangerously low. And so we actually do have a lot of walk-ons and a lot of people who are on partial scholarships. And he said these people might not be putting in 40 hours of practice week, but are we looking at the time they're spending in the gym? Are we looking at the time that they're spending in the games and the times they're spending outside of that, even talking strategy and talking how they can do better? And really, when you're a student athlete, you represent 24/7. So really, you are on staff all the time because you are constantly having to represent Boise State and what we are and what we stand for, and so you are always working.
John or Iggy, a rebuttal to that?
You are always working if you're Jay Ajayi. If you're anybody else in this school, then nobody knows who you are, and it's wonderful that you're a student athlete and that you've accomplished all that in your life, but the honest to God truth is that there's one celebrity athlete on this campus, and that's the one who's generating most of the money, and he happens to be on the team that generates almost all the money.
Well, and it happens to be the people who get full ride scholarships are also the people who are the biggest representatives, but don't undermine the people who are not necessarily the biggest representative. A guy on a ping pong team messes up, gets really drunk, it's at least going to get written in the Arbiter, if nothing else.
Yeah, the Arbiter, that's true, it will be written in the Arbiter, but that's circulation is pretty small.
But the AD, the athletic director, holds everybody to the same standard, regardless if you're a celebrity or if you're just a walk-on. If you do something wrong, you're off the team. And if that's something you have to worry about, and that they're scared about that ruining their reputation at any cost. And they'll kick you off a team no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jordan, wouldn't it be unfair for other college students? John kind of alluded to this. If you guys were to get paid in addition to getting a full ride scholarship, like a $15,000 is the average, wouldn't that be a little bit unfair?
It'd be unfair if we had like some outrageous payment. But I think if you're going to use like some of these images in some commercial ad or something like that, they should be compensated for that. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, life's not fair, and a lot of these people who are student athletes, especially the really successful ones, they've worked really hard to get where they're at, and they deserve what they get, and they don't have to be paid some ridiculous lump sum of money, but when the school and the NCAA are profiting off of their jerseys, off of their face on a commercial, I think they deserve a cut of that. Why shouldn't they? They worked to get there.
Your response to that, John?
The elite few absolutely do deserve a cut, but that is a very, very, very small number of individuals. It's the number of, Johnny Manziel sold more jerseys than anybody else in college football last year. He didn't see any money off of it. He should have. Just like Jay Ajayi, he should be seeing money off the jerseys that he is selling. But like I said, the rest of the team, the second string, the third string, nobody knows their name, nobody's buying their number, nobody's representing them with that.
Those guys aren't on full ride scholarships, so those are the guys who are putting in just as much work as everybody else every week, but then when it comes to turn around to pay their bills, they don't have that money from the school.
You just said that the people who worked the hardest are the ones who are compensated the most with the scholarships. The people who didn't make it that far probably didn't work as hard.
Maybe they worked harder in high school, but these people are giving the same commitment in college. Maybe they are just more naturally talented. Maybe it's just worked out better for them. But there are people on the second string. What it comes down to is, even if I just said that, what it matters is that the people on the second and the third string are people who are not on full ride scholarships. And these are people who still have bills to pay, just like everybody else, still have to pay for tuition, still need to eat every week. And they're going to have a harder time doing it because they have no time to work.
And who does the first string practice with? The second string squad.
Absolutely.
They're here to help them out, so why shouldn't they be compensated at all? First string wouldn't be what they are without second string.
Iggy, anything that you want to add to that?
I don't think that's necessarily true, because we have a few walk-ons in our team who have managed to budget their time, and they've also worked throughout the summer and worked hard, whereas we have to do the extra summer workouts and they're not required to be there, and they're getting summer jobs and working for their year to pay for their bills and all that. So we're here committed to the program, and they're out there working for their year to prepare themselves because they know what they have ahead of themselves. And also on a job resume, if you're a walk-on, it looks good if you've represented the school in a sport or something, whereas we're trying to become professionals or to make it further, so it has its positives for both aspects.
Isn't it easier to make it further and to be able to focus on your sport and what really matters to you if you don't have to worry about working all the time, if you can devote yourself in the summer to your sport and that's what matters to you?
Yeah, but everyone has to make sacrifices depending on their goals, and that varies through everyone, through each individual. And
doesn't it make it easier for you to become a better molecular engineer if you can have your school paid for and you don't have to worry about a job and you can do nothing but study molecular engineering with all your time? So I mean, of course that's true, but based on that argument, everybody who's a student should be getting paid. It would make us all immediately better at everything we were doing because we would have more time.
That's a whole nother argument entirely, but I want to go back really quick before he says something else to just your argument about the elite few, and I just want to say how dangerous it would be. I do think that the elite few do possibly deserve a bigger cut, like more for their jerseys or for their advertisements and such, but it's really, really dangerous to say that only the elite few deserve to be paid, because those, like I said, are the people who are already on full ride scholarships. So maybe the NCAA or the schools or whomever can work out some kind of program where they're getting paid just some kind of basic stipend to be a member of the team. That's going to limit the amount of excess walk-ons they can bring on the team, which allows the people who are not good enough to go get out to the workforce and make those sacrifices that he brought up, and then pay that stipend, whatever it is, to everyone else who is an athlete. And like he said, you're a member of that team, you are representing us all the time, and the athletic director will make sure that these are the people that we need to have in, and these people deserve that payment.
Now, John, with the NCAA making about $11 billion each year off college athletics, shouldn't college athletes see at least some of that money? Well,
absolutely. The ones who contribute to that money should see some of that money. This is a capitalist country, or an altered capitalist country, but we pretend to be capitalist at the very least. And if you generate money based on playing games, based on being on network television, based on being in commercials, based on doing what you do, then obviously you should be making money, but most of that money is generated by A, the regular season for football, and B, the tournament for college basketball, and the rest of it is in little tiny amounts here and there.
Iggy, anything to say to that?
Yeah, I think you already know what you're signing up for when you're a student athlete and you're trying to aspire to get a scholarship as an athlete. And saying in that, you're always going to go through those processes of thinking, should I get paid or not? But originally you signed up here, you get a free education, you get your schools and books paid for, and then you're going to obviously have your food or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is, like, even if you sign up for the Army, you know what you're getting yourself into. You're risking your life for your country. Whereas here, you're signing up for the NCAA. They have their strict guidelines. You already know what they are. So that's basically how it is. Sometimes life isn't fair. If it was fair for everyone, then it would be unfair.
Jordan or Ryan, thoughts on that?
I think that the profit that they make off of student athletes, it should come back to us a little bit. Like, just a little bit. When it comes down to sports, like football and stuff, they're obviously going to make more because they football and basketball bring in the most revenue from everybody. But that one of the former the former NCAA executive director, he said himself, like, amateurism is a camouflage for monopoly. That's how they control everything. They say it's amateurism. So that's what they use as they say, oh, we're trying to train them to be professional and stuff. But they don't even let us talk to any type of agents or anything before we graduate. So like, how are we supposed to prep ourselves to be professional? And their argument is that we're amateurs. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, why should these executives, these people who run the NCAA, get to make millions and millions of dollars off these people's work? Really, that doesn't seem just. And then the rest of the money gets kicked maybe to Boise State if we're lucky. And that money that does get kicked to Boise State, we redesign the stadium 20 times in 10 years and cut parts out and then add them back. And it seems that goes to waste, and maybe that could be used a little bit better somewhere else.
It costs a lot of money to put a different name on that stadium every 2 or 3 years. It costs a lot of money.
Well, Ryan, it's interesting you bring that up because a study says that only 23 out of the 200 plus universities actually make money off of their athletic programs, and most of that money actually goes to the NCAA or administrators in that position. So, I mean, does that kind of change your guys' view on, you know?
Well, I guess that goes exactly back to what I was saying. I said the money that we are lucky enough to get kicked to, that's what we spend it on, and that's no surprise that we're not profitable. But the NCAA is the one who's making a lot of money off of this. And especially for those elite athletes, I think it's something that's kind of important too, because if those elite athletes can still get paid while they're in college, that might help them to stay in college too. And we know that there have been elite athletes who have left, joined the major league because they didn't want to stay for their senior year or something, they don't graduate, and they get hurt. And then what happens is they're out of luck. They don't have their degree. They can't play anymore. And this system tries to push people out of college early, and because they can get financially hurt by staying. If they stay and get hurt in their senior year, then they lose everything.
John, thoughts about that?
First of all, I'd like to say that if you are a student athlete, I do believe that you should be getting a free education, regardless of whether you're a walk-on, third string, fourth string, whatever. I think you should be getting a free education. And on top of that, there are certain institutions that will not allow their student athletes who are not making any money to go out into the world and get a job. So that I don't think is fair. However, the NCAA, the colleges that are making money are usually the major programs with the elite athletes. And so again, it comes back to the elite athletes are the ones who are generating the money, the people who can get their face on TV, because it's wonderful to be in a commercial, it's wonderful to be on TV, but you have to generate viewers or it doesn't matter. And so Johnny Manziel, I don't even think is very good, but he generates viewers, and that's why he maybe deserves to get paid, but the swim star at Texas A&M, maybe not. That's just how I feel about it.
Iggy, you know, you're being a student athlete. I mean, even though you get kind of a free education and you get money for food and stuff, wouldn't it be nice to get have more money for, you know, going out and doing stuff? I
mean, it would be nice. Wouldn't it be nice if we all got promotions every week or had a bit of more money to spend in our pockets? It's just how you budget your money, really. And also taking back to the point where you're not allowed to speak to agents. You're actually allowed to speak to them. You're just not allowed to sign a agreement with them, so that leaves you open with a lot of opportunities where they can come and talk to you, just knowing through basketball and stuff, and overseas agents as well. And you get that kind of exposure on TV here in America especially, where you wouldn't get anywhere else in the world. So that's why it's seen as such an attractive place to come to from like international students, especially athletes, because you get that exposure and it like puts a lot of emphasis on what you're doing out there. So I think that's definitely an advantage, and I don't see why you should be getting paid more for that when you have all those priorities already.
Jordan, do you feel that you get enough, or do you feel like you should be getting more?
Money-wise?
Yeah.
I feel like I should be getting more, yeah. There's just so much you need to spend as a college student as it is, but like, we need, not to sound like we need extra, but like, how are we supposed to come back week after week and perform as we're supposed to, and we only had as much meals as anybody else on campus? It's like, one thing I was thinking of today was, we're supposed to go to class and act like we didn't just perform at practice, and we're supposed to go to practice and act like we just didn't perform at class, like for the last 3 hours. And it's like, you're supposed to be at a high elite level every single day that you're either in class or you're at practice. And practice isn't just practice, there's also weight room and all that other stuff we have to go through. And it's like, we need that fuel, we need that energy.
So it's safe to say that you feel that, you know, they could give athletes more money than what you guys already have? Is it very strict? Do you have to balance like really tightly, do you feel?
I do, yes. But like, I think, like I was saying earlier, we don't need like an abundant amount of money.
Yeah.
And then that's when it gets taken advantage of, and that's when things start looking bad on our part as student athletes, when people start buying unnecessary things. But I think there should be more of like it shouldn't have to be a struggle to be a student athlete, in my opinion. Like, you're working hard for this institution and give them a good name. Like, that's a job. I don't see how it's not a job, and we should be compensated as so.
Any rebuttal to that, Iggy?
No, I definitely think it's a job, and you get paid through your education and your free books and the meals you get and the rent, obviously. So I think that's our pay. But
that's just getting by, though. That's how you get by in life. Like,
yeah, well, we're at an age where we have to get by to reach our goals sometimes, and sometimes you have to sacrifice some things, and then that's what learning teaches you values in life. But
I want to go back to something you said and something you're kind of saying, which is that you said you feel that everybody who's a student athlete should have like a full ride, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Right. So then shouldn't, as it currently stands, we be paying the people, shouldn't the NCAA or somebody be stepping up to pay the people who are not full ride and make sure that they can get through too?
Well, the NCAA should be dissolved entirely because the colleges are totally capable of managing this by themselves. We don't actually need a national conference of athletics or whatever it stands for anymore. It's no longer necessary. The money that is generated by student athletics should be coming back to the school. Everybody who's playing on a sports team should be getting that free ride. They shouldn't have to worry about paying for their tuition. They should be getting their books. They should be getting their food. There was a controversy this summer that Shabazz Napier of UConn started because he said, I go to bed hungry sometimes, and that's absurd and obscene, and there's no way that any of our student athletes, who are a valuable commodity at every campus, should be treated like that. Everybody should be able to eat, everybody should be able to have enough food, but the same goes for every student again. So when there's the money for it, you get the money is given to the programs, but when there's not, the money doesn't go to them, and there's no money being generated by the majority of sports. It's just there's no money being generated by it. It's all taking money.
So your proposal is that if we dissolve the NCAA and we were to get rid of those institutions, that the colleges and universities would have enough money to give everyone a full ride?
They would at least be able to manage the money the way that they saw fit rather than having an outside organization tell them what's right.
And don't you think, though, even though the NCAA, as we said, does garnish a lot of extra funds for themselves and they bring in a lot of that money for them, do you think that they play a part in the ridiculously high revenues that sports bring in? I
think that they did, and it's like training wheels. You know, for a while you need them, and then after a while you take them off and you roll by yourself.
Ryan, if students were to be able to be paid, wouldn't it create a disparity between big universities such as the University of Texas and Boise State?
And that's why I said kind of earlier when I brought up how I thought we should go about it, it's very important that we figure out like a stipend number, a number that is almost law. And I mean, that's why the NCAA exists, I think, is to try to regulate and to set in standards. This can be done, this cannot, because if you don't have the NCAA, there will be more, deals under the table and such. And so if we set up this stipend, we set up at a certain amount that you are going to get paid if you are an athlete in this department, on this team, whatever, or all teams, every college football player will be paid X amount. If you set that up, then it doesn't leave room for that. People can't cheat the system. People can't have that. People can do more than go hungry, as the UConn player said, and do okay with their lives, and they can maybe get a portion of their jersey sales as well, and that takes the influence out of it, and that keeps it even.
A response to that, John?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that, honestly. I think that your jersey sales should definitely be going to the students. It's not your name, but it's your number. We know when we see a number 27 jersey on this campus, we know exactly what it means. That having been said, the Mountain West is not, it's not the SEC, it's not the Pac-12. If they removed the Mountain West, all the schools from college football would suffer this much. It's not the same beast. So I don't think it's possible necessarily to still be being fair and to give equal amounts of stipends to, say, the USC football team and the Boise State football team. The USC football team generates significantly more money.
That doesn't mean that they get to pay anybody else more, is what we're saying.
Football, it's no secret that football and basketball generate the most money, but what about kind of the other sports? I mean, if athletes were to be paid, should it all be equally, or should, some sports get paid more than others?
I would say an unfortunate reality of it would be that there probably would be some sports that get paid more than others. In an ideal world, maybe all college athletes could get paid the same. But again, I think what we need to see here is that where we need to get is a place where a college athlete, somebody who puts in a lot of work, who puts a full-time job in for this university to represent us, needs to be at a place where their tuition is covered and they have a little bit more to live comfortably. That's where we need to be.
Thoughts on that, Jordan? I mean, because you don't come from that football or basketball background, but I mean, what do you think? How should it be allotted?
I agree. And unfortunately, you know, they're going to be paid more than any other sport. But like, let's be honest, like a wrestler to become, this is their one chance. Yeah. Not their one chance, but like to be pro in a wrestling, you're not going to get paid much. You're not going to end up going pro and all that. So this is their one chance. Why not compensate them for it? They're putting a good image in for Boise State. They have to abide by all the rules here. Why not give them the one chance of being a pro?
Now, Iggy, if you were to be paid for basketball, since you're one of the sports that really brings revenue into the university, would you expect yourself to be paid more than a track and field athlete per se?
I mean, if I was on the outside looking in, I probably would say no, but just when it comes to different sports and how much revenue they earn, it's hard because just in the real world, like if you're a doctor or if you do something for the community that's more valuable, well, I'm not saying more valuable, but just takes more time, obviously. Well, I'm not saying that basketball takes more time, it's just it has more revenue involved, obviously. I think, yeah, and if you look at it that way, then yes.
Thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it the whole time. If you play a sport that generates money, then you obviously have more right to that money than if you play a sport that doesn't generate money. It's not fair, and like you said, in a perfect world, that's not necessarily how it is, but in a perfect world, socialism works perfectly and we're all equal and everything's cool and everybody's happy and everybody's proud to work whatever they work and make whatever they make, and that's just not how it goes. So at the end of the day, the fans are the ones who ultimately decide how much money something is worth.
If athletes were to be getting paid, Jordan, do you think it would ruin college athletics and to the point that it'd be basically, you know, professional sports?
No, because there's already rules in the NCAA that prohibits us from doing so many other things. You can put limits to the payments. Like, no one's going to sit out a year for a contract extension in college. Like, that doesn't make sense. You just
that'd be a fun experiment,
right? Nah, there should be rules. There's going to be rules to it if that ends up happening, and I think it's fair game to get paid, though.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, exactly. I don't really see how it could destroy the sports unless, like I said, you know, you don't regulate it. If we don't have any kind of regulation and we just say, USC, who has millions and millions of dollars more than Boise State, you guys can recruit whoever you want and pay them as much as you want, that would be terrible. The SEC, as everybody knows, would take over and all the schools with the money would dominate and everybody else would fall completely off the map. And so that's where, again, you come in and you say, this is the amount that you can be paid. This is your stipend for being this kind of player in this kind of league in the world, and that's that.
Another thing, it could encourage like athletics to boost up a little bit. If you can get paid more for performing more, you're going to want to perform at a higher level than you were just a minute ago. And people that say, I don't really want to do college sports after high school, it's going to make them want to. Like, I'm going to get paid for that? Heck yeah.
Thoughts on that, Iggy?
No, I agree with what they've said in terms of that.
John, do you have a kind of a differing opinion on that? Would it ruin college athletics?
If with the NCAA in place, it probably would ruin a certain degree of college athletics. I mean, every year there's a scandal. So-and-so five-star recruit got a car, got a house for his parents, got a gigantic $300,000 check from whatever university, Alabama, USC. Obviously, USC with Reggie Bush had the big controversy just a few years back. So ultimately what would happen, I think, is even though the shared revenue would be a nice idea, the majority of those shares would end up in the hands of Nick Saban, Sarkisian, the major coaches at the major programs, and we'd see, you know, a bunch of USC players riding around in BMWs like Bush was.
But wait a minute, who though discovers these scandals? Who blows them up and says that they're scandals and this shouldn't have been done?
Usually it's internally reported at some point.
Okay, well, but I mean the NCAA ultimately opens the investigation, right?
Yeah, and then they, you know, fumble around with it for about 3 years and then give unfair punishments to certain schools.
The point I'm getting at with that is without the NCAA, without oversight, without someone there, which is not what this is about, but without the NCAA being there, isn't there going to be more of that? Why would there be reason to believe people would take less advantage of a system that does not have oversight?
Why hasn't the NCAA done anything about it so far?
They have. Look at what they did to Reggie Bush.
Yeah, they took away a trophy, a meaningless trophy. He's making millions of dollars in the
doubt it was
NFL right
meaningless to
now.
him.
The NCAA also just released a list of the top programs during the BCS years, and the one school that was #1 was USC's team with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, the same school that had their trophies taken back and their Heismans taken back. It's ridiculous. You can take back a Heisman all you want. He won the Heisman. It's in the history books. Nobody's forgetting it.
I'll interject here real quick, just due to time, guys. Doesn't it seem kind of unfair, John, that a coach like John Calipari is making over $5 million a year, while a player like John Randall, before he went to the Lakers, made nothing?
Julius Randle.
Julius Randle, sorry.
I absolutely think that's unfair, but again, it goes back to what Iggy said, what Ryan said, what Jordan said. This isn't about fair. There's a lot of things that would be a lot more fair in this world that could be fixed, but that's just not the major celebrities in college sports are the coaches. Those are the biggest stars. Even when Johnny Manziel is on your team, the biggest star is the coach. So that's where that lies. They generate that money. They earn that money.
Thoughts on that, Jordan?
No.
Anything to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. I agree with that. Coaches' pay is what coaches' pay is. I mean, we're talking about student athletes' pay here, so coaches' pay, it's going to be different from place to place. That's not totally fair, and that's one of the things that could be a separate discussion, but I don't know if it pertains to the subject today.
All right, guys, so I'll have you guys go first. Just a final thought on this kind of debate on whether college athletes should be paid. Start with you, Jordan, just kind of closing thought.
Yeah, it should be paid and make it a helpful life as a student athlete. It might be your one chance of being an athlete, put you in the spotlight for your 15 minutes of fame, and why not be compensated for it?
Yeah, let's bring it back down to the things we talked about today and the things that they kind of ultimately decided they agreed with. They agreed that stipends could be a good idea, and that stipends could ultimately help people and help to make up for the places where we're not giving full ride scholarships. They agreed that we should have full ride scholarships, but ultimately right now we don't have those there, and so something needs to be in place to fix that. And if stipends is that system, then that's what they agreed to. They also agreed to certain players should be able to get paid for their jerseys and their advertisement, and again, that's what we're talking about today, and they agreed to that. And I mean, we can see that therefore in the end, student athletes deserve to be paid, and that's what we were talking about, and we've affirmed that.
All right, real quick, John and Iggy, closing thoughts?
Student athletes are paid. More of them should be. The ones an education is an invaluable thing in this country, and to have one, to be able to access one because of in a certain way, a God-given talent is an extreme advantage to have in this world. It's a wonderful thing, and I don't think it should be taken away or given to fewer athletes. I think it should be given to more, but the scholarship is the pay.
Final thought, Iggy?
Yeah, I agree that student athletes are paid through their education and stipend checks and their books, and I wish this system would be in Australia too, because I'm sure a lot of athletes down there would love to be able to get a free education through their athletic talents. So.
All right, and that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hotspot. This has been a UTP production. Brandon Walton signing off. Until next time.